Good afternoon. My name is Marvin Moreno, and today I'll be talking about indoor air quality solutions. I actually have been in the HVAC&R industry for over 10 years, and I represent the Plasma Air and the Noveris brands, which are part of the Well Air group. And it's today I'll spend the next 30 minutes talking to you about something that has become a trend, unfortunately, in the past year as a result of the pandemic, right? But much more than the pandemic and addressing the issues with COVID-19, it's a theme that now has a big spotlight on, which is the improvement of indoor air quality in our indoor environment. So really, that's what our organization is all about, and we have a tremendous partnership with Lennox, and I'm glad to also answer some questions that you may have when you see this recording via the Teams link that you will receive. So let's ground ourselves, right? So I think it's important to understand where indoor air contaminants come from, right? A lot of and what are they, right? A lot of what we hear nowadays, of course, is again it's COVID-19, but there has been and the reason why we have applied systems and filtration in general is because there's a lot of things that are floating in the air at any given moment, right? We have bacteria, mold, pollen, TVOCs, which are basically total volatile organic components. We got chemicals, we got dander, and we have particulate matter. In other words, dust, right? So at any point in time, all those elements are present in the air. You probably have seen some sort of informative slide or printout or even on the news throughout this past year in terms of how viruses get transmitted through the air, right? A lot of it has to do with the spreading of droplets that are contaminated, right? So this information here is not really us telling it as an organization, but comes from the CDC and other entities around the world that actually showcase how transmissibility of viruses takes place in indoor environments. So, we address this two ways, right? We have a set of portable technologies as well as a ionization technology that is meant to be built into the applied equipment. And then working together, we provide the best way to improve overall indoor air quality in systems. So I'll first start talking about our portable technology, and then I'll shift over to ionization and then bring them both together, right? So let's talk about our portable technology, which is powered by Nanostrike. Nanostrike is a technology that was developed and patented by the Well Air Group. If you think about what Nanostrike is, it is basically something that exists naturally in nature, right? In fact, when there is a lightning strike or a volcanic eruption, lava, both of these natural occurring events have something that there's a byproduct, which is called the cold plasma or plasma emission, right? Not so much coal in terms of a volcanic eruption, but there's plasma emission, and there's actually a plasma field that is generated as a result of a lightning strike. So what our company has done is really miniaturize that technology to be able to enclose it and put it into what we call Nanostrike tubes. So if you think about it, nano is associated with nanotechnology, right? So miniaturized technology, and strike really coming from the concept of a lightning strike, right? So the Nanostrike technology, what it does, it really is a unique way to destroy. It actually destroys airborne pathogens, right? The viruses, the bacteria, mold spores, fungi. And it does it by using 5 concurrent processes that are taking place within that plasma field, right? And I'll explain them briefly. The first one is basically a replication of what we do with ionization, which is the bombardment of a particle or a cell with negative and positive ions. Right? Negative and positive ions, basically what they do is they attack the cell itself and try to deactivate the cell by removing hydrogen and also synthesizing the protein in a cell itself. While the ionization bombardment is taking place, there's also a process called electroporation, which is complicated word to signify that it's a magnetic field that actually weakens the surface of the cell. As the surface of the cell gets weakened by the electroporation, the ionization, the ions are able, the negative and positive particles are able to penetrate the wall of the cell, and as well as UV light and heat, which are also byproducts of this nanostrike field, right? The plasma field. All of these four things cause for a fifth, I was going to say, concurrent process to take place, which is really a byproduct of the first four, and that is called osmotic pressure. The osmotic pressure, what it does, it basically destabilizes the pathogen and causes for it to implode from the inside out. And if you think about it, right, we are very unique because unlike HEPA filters, which capture pathogens, and filters in general, which depending on what type of filter it is, will have the ability to capture things, ionization, PCO, UV light will have some sort of deactivation or neutralization effect. We actually are destroying that pathogen at the DNA level, right? So we actually attack the DNA chain, impeding from that actual pathogen to be able to reproduce itself or to mutate, and obviously not able to find a host, which means that you and I don't get sick by it, right? So again, it's here, as you've probably seen this very famous picture for the past year, right? It's the it is basically a replication of how a COVID particle looks. There's other bacteria and viruses that kind of have the same shape, right? But what we show here is that it really impedes our technology because of that implosion from the inside out, impedes for that pathogen to be able to heal, right? The only other type of, the only other way you can do this, for example, is with antibiotics when it comes to bacteria, right? So we are a very unique technology that was patented by us, right? What you see here is validation in terms of how the technology works. So a lot of what we do in our organization is built around science, right? Our partnership with Linux is the foundation is the fact that our company has spent a significant amount of resources in terms of validating the way that our technology works through third-party studies and also peer-reviewed papers. This is one of them. The NASA Ames Research Center actually had the opportunity to look at the effects of our technology with different pathogens. What you see on this slide is a example of different technologies attacking an E. coli particle, right? The first one that you see here on your left side of the screen is just a healthy E. coli bacteria. The second frame will give you that same bacteria, which has been submitted to ozone, right? Ozone, by the way, is dangerous to you and I, but there are some technologies that use ozone as a way to eradicate pathogens, right? So certain types of UV and also PCO, hydrogen peroxide, sometimes have ozone emissions, right? And whereas they could be good to destroy pathogens, they're very unhealthy for you and I. Keep that in mind. So in this case, the ozone did not do much to this E. coli bacteria over a period of 2 hours. We also, the researchers at the NASA, which is our very well-known entity, Ames Research Center, also subjected this E. coli molecule or particle through a heat radiation of 160 degrees. And as you can tell, all it did was basically split it into two. Impressive. Our last frame here shows the exposure to our Nanostrike cold plasma field technology, right? And the results is, I mean, it speaks on itself. In 2 milliseconds, that is 0.002 seconds, the entire pathogen was completely destroyed. What does that mean? Cannot heal, cannot reproduce, it can't find a host. Basically, it doesn't exist anymore. It has been destroyed, right? So the technology is unique in terms of how it works because of how it destroys pathogens in the air. What you see here is a comparison of our technology with other technologies. And I like to point out UVGI, which is basically UVC, ionization, which is a technology we'll talk about here soon, and of course filtration, which a lot of times is related to HEPA filters. As you can see, one of the main differences between us and all of the other technologies stands from a few things that stand out, right? First one is a total cost of ownership. There's no replacement of any of the elements that generate the cold plasma field associated with our technology, with our portable technology. So when you compare that to PCO, where you have to replace a light, ultraviolet C, which is also requires the replacement of a tube that's generating that UVC spectrum, or a filter technology where you have to replace the filters with certain frequency, right? Over the lifespan of a system, typically 5 to 7 years is the lifespan of a Nanostrike system, we tend to have the lowest total cost of ownership, right? That's one. The second one is we destroy the pathogen. None of the other technologies are able to burst that pathogen from the inside out, right? And then the last one, which is also pretty impressive, is that we work with any type of size related to particles. Now, the coronavirus is, as an example, is 0.5 nanometers, right? And there are some HEPA filters that are not able to catch it, right? And now it's mutating into other things with different sizes. It doesn't matter to our technology. We're able to burst that pathogen no matter how big or small it is. One additional element related to how our technology works is the degradation of the technology itself does not happen with Nanostrike. We compare that over a period of 12 months, the operation of filters, PCO, UVGI light, and ESP. And as you can tell, we weren't concerned with degradation. Our performance was the same as it was on day one, hour one, as it was at the end of a 12-month period, whereas the other technologies had either a linear or some sort of exponential, negative exponential degradation in terms of the efficacy of their technology. So nowadays, you see a lot of schools, government buildings, all throughout the region, right? It's not just in the US and in Puerto Rico, but all around the world, there's a lot of push to opening back up, right? Open schools, open government buildings, open universities, right? And interesting enough, what we find is that we have a lot of push, there's a lot of push for HEPA filtration units, right? And here's the challenge with HEPA, right? HEPA filters, yes, they're great because they can capture a lot of very small particles. The problem with HEPA is you're not destroying anything. You're actually capturing that live virus, MRSA, bacteria, even the flu virus, which is still around. We just don't seem to be concerned about it because we're all wearing masks, right? But they're all around, right? So a HEPA filter will just capture it, right? You have to be in full PPE gear to go and replace that filter at some point, or the person replacing that filter, guess what? They're going to get sick. And not only they're going to get sick, but they're going to be a source of contamination to whoever they come in touch with, right? So that's the challenge when it comes to HEPA filters. The other thing with the HEPA filter is it depends where you locate it. That airflow to get to the HEPA filter may allow for that viral elements in the air to actually come in contact with a person, right? So think about it, if you're in a school, you have a HEPA portable filtration unit as exemplified by my painting back here, and I am standing over here, and somebody that is sick is in front of me. That airflow going back to that HEPA filtration unit is going to carry that virus-filled air through my face before it goes into that HEPA unit, right? So I will get sick. Yes, the virus will get caught at some point, but you're exposing people to a virus or another transmissible element because guess what? You're not destroying it. You're not deactivating it, right? We do. We do both with Nanostrike, and we also deactivate with ionization, which I will talk about later. So, like I said, we validate everything that we do. This is a snapshot of tests that we have conducted with our Nanostrike technology. What you see here is the name of the virus, bacteria, or element that we tested against, the percentage reduction in the amount of time, and also the space in which we did the test. And if you look at the spaces in which the tests were conducted, a lot of this are real size spaces. You look at our competitors and even HEPA filtration, they built little test chambers that are about this big, right? And then they call that efficacy testing. We do real efficacy testing in real spaces, and that's a big differentiator between us and the competition. A lot of our resource testing data can be found on our website at www.plasmaair.com/resources or through www.welleirsolutions.com. So let's talk about the lineup of portable solutions that we have. So we have three of them, right? The first one is our top of the line, FDA cleared 510K class 2 medical device to filter out and inactivate virus or bacteria. Now, this one is a little bit different. I know I just talked about HEPA filtration and why I would not position HEPA filtration in certain environments. Our Nanostrike technology is outstanding when it comes to killing anything that is alive in the air, right? What it doesn't do, similar to what ionization does, is deactivate TVOCs or to get rid of particulate matter, right? There's very little effect on that. So because of that, the Defend 1050 has both a HEPA filter and a carbon filter to capture the particulate matter and also to maintain TVOCs out of the space. This unit here comes in 5 speeds, the highest one being 533 cubic feet per minute. That means that in a room the size of about 700 to 800 square feet with 8-foot ceilings, you can do about 4 exchanges an hour. Right? It's a very powerful unit. The filters that you see here need to be replaced once a year. The carbon filter is the last stage in the process. This is the one that's going to maintain the purity around the VOCs and odors. The HEPA filter is stage 3, which means that it's not going to be a secondary source of contamination of biohazard like I talked about before, because it's only getting all the dead debris after the virus, the bacteria, the fungi has gone through the Nanostrike tubes. It's getting the debris from it coming through, all of that stuff going through a plasma tube. It gets captured in that HEPA filter. And then the first filter is just a particulate filter to keep all the impurities out of the unit itself. This unit has a lifespan of anywhere between 5 to 7, 8 years. It is available within a 2-week lead time for orders under 50 units. Above 50 units, it's anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks in lead time, and it's perfectly. It's a perfect solution for hospitals, surgery centers, pharmaceutical manufacturing, doctors' offices, dentist offices, and orthodontists. Right? We find that this device not only is used in the medical community because, again, it's FDA approved, but also we see that there's a lot of high-end customers that decide this to bring to their offices, VIP centers, social centers, country clubs, high-end restaurants, and also high-income homes. Our other 2 devices are smaller than this device and do not have any type of filtration, right? In fact, I believe that the Protect 900, which is our middle of the line, is probably the one that's going to be the most appealing to your customer base. It is a unit that has the ability to do 4 air exchanges in a space of approximately 270 to 300 square feet with 8-foot ceilings. It does it through 2 fan speeds, the highest one being 180 CFM. It has 2 plasma tubes inside of it. The Defend 1050 has 6, the Protect 900 has 2, but as I mentioned, it has no filter media to replace. So over a period of 5 to 7 years, lowest total cost of ownership when compared with any type of portable unit that uses filtration, UV lighting, or other technology. And then finally, our Protect 200 is a small, portable, compact unit, about this big. I recommend that one for personal spaces such as cubicles in offices or teacher's desk, or even when you're traveling for hotel rooms, right? Either as a consumer, somebody who can buy that for when they travel and put it in their hotel room, or for hotels and resorts where they can place a Protect 200 in smaller rooms and a Protect 900 in more of the suite type of environments, or even a hotel can carry for every cleaning cart that they have, they could have a Protect 900 and that cleaning cart, plug it into the outlet in the wall while the housekeeping person is cleaning the room, and that room is getting completely disinfected. right, before the next guest comes in. So it's a tremendous solution in terms of the three options that we present to you. Here you can see that the Protect 900 on a table stand. This unit can, like I mentioned, it can be it can do 4 to 5 air exchanges in a room about this size, right? So about 300 square feet, typical 8-foot ceilings, either by sitting on a tabletop stand or by it being mounted on the wall. You can see it, in fact, here mounted on an elevator wall and disinfecting the air in that elevator cap. You can see our smaller unit, the Noveris 200, which again is that portable unit, smaller unit in a washroom. And then here our Protect 900 in a, this case, a basketball team's locker room. And our Defend 1050, which I mentioned is a medical grade device installed inside of a VIP area. Okay, so this is our Nanostrike technology. So now let's talk a bit about our ionization. Ionization, I like to position ionization as the long-term solution to improvement of indoor air quality in spaces, right? Ions are something that exists naturally in, it's something that's, it's natural for nature, right? So if you were to go, in fact, to, depending where you live, right? You go to a mountain, 2,000, 3,000 feet above sea level, and you pull out something that we call an ion meter to measure the ion density, you would find that there's anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 ions per cubic centimeter in that mountaintop, right? So the ions exist normally in nature. Now, what we do and why we do it is we try to replicate that same ion density that is found on a mountaintop where there's no pollution into indoor spaces, right? Why? Because we know that as you go from mountaintops to rural areas, cities, and then large cities, especially where there's a lot of population density, there's emissions from cars, there's emissions from machinery that's working, even our own HVAC equipment running at full speed to maintain spaces heated or cooled, and other things, right? Humans, right? So the ion concentration tends to reduce and it gets to levels that are really not healthy, right? And not healthy in the sense that they're not doing anything. Our ionizers are devised or sized to produce those ion densities that you would naturally find out in a mountaintop, right? But what do ions do, right? So ions do two things, right? The first thing that they do is related to a virus, right? They strip away that hydrogen life-sustaining molecule from a virus so that it basically becomes inactive. So what we're doing is we're deactivating a virus by taking the hydrogen molecule, which then keeps it from being capable of attaching itself to a host or from it being able to get continue to reproduce, right? To mutate or reproduce. So again, big difference. Nanostrike, our Nanostrike patented technology destroys from the inside out. Ionization deactivates the virus. Now, ionization, we didn't invent ionization. This has been around for years, right? Like I said, it's natural. It's been around for years. It's important to highlight that we have perfected ionization. We are one of the world leaders when it comes to bipolar ionization that is UL 2998 approved, meaning that it doesn't generate ozone. And it is bipolar in the sense that it has negative and positive ions, which is a big differentiator between other technologies that are just unipolar ionization. In other words, that only emit negative ions. And why is that important? Because when you have positive and negative ions, what you're doing is you're allowing for particulate matter and other things that are in the air to come cluster with one another, right? So what we're doing is we're creating the opportunity not only to deactivate viruses and taking hydrogen, life-sustaining hydrogen particles from things that are alive in the air, but we're also clustering anything that is in the air, pollen, particulate matter, fungi, mold spores, bacteria. We cluster it. They cluster and they get to a molecular weight that they will, to a point, molecular weight or a size that they will either drop out of the breathing zone or they will get captured by a filter such as a MERV 8 or a MERV 13 filter, which under normal conditions would never be able to capture those very small particles, right? In fact, I like to say that we supercharge a simple MERV13 filter by introducing ionization, right? Just like we have done with our Nanostrike technology, we have tremendous efficacy studies around the effects of ionization. Here's a sample study of a classroom. On the left side, you see without a control group, without ionization, and then you see the same environment with a bioload that was 50% less with the introduction of ionization. This was done by the Board of Cooperative Educational Services in the state of New York. Same battery of tests that we did with the Nanostrike, we have them for ionization technology in terms of the reduction of the bacteria, virus, mold, spores, particulate matter, and who the testing partner was. But obviously, we also have done a lot of testing with H1N1, HPIV3, and viruses, right? And again, viruses is it is the theme. It's probably the reason why you're listening to this webinar, right? So I invite you to Google Dr. John Oxford ionization. Just Google Dr. John Oxford and the word ionization, right? He is one of the world-renowned virologists, and he does a pretty good job in 30 seconds of explaining how ionization deactivates viruses. In fact, we did a test in partnership with the government of Spain and TERA, our entity that we work through in Spain. And the Ministry of Defense in Spain basically created a testing zone inside of a hotel where they had a full-size hotel room with Petri dishes of an MS2 bacteriophage, which is actually much more aggressive than the SARS-CoV-2 that produces COVID, and mannequins to replicate humans breathing air. What they were able to find, or the results from that test, were that within 10 minutes, there was a 2-log reduction, which is equivalent to 99% of that MS2 presence in the air, and a 80% or 0.85 log reduction related to surfaces. So that was a tremendous validation in terms of ionization. It's extremely powerful to remove airborne pathogens and to deactivate viruses in the air that is around you and me. The applications of our technology, listen, we have been around for a while. We're not new. We just have a spotlight on us right now. But you can find us in buildings all over the world, homes, schools, hospitals, daycare centers, casinos, hotels, airport terminals. We have hundreds and hundreds of examples of places where we have installed this technology in different vertical markets. So let's talk about the products, right? And the products that are available through our Linux partnership. The first one is a simple needlepoint ionizer. One needlepoint produces negative, the other one produces positive ions. In fact, millions of ions are generated out of this needlepoint. But the intent, regardless of how many millions of ions are produced at the tip of the ionizer, is to maintain that magic number between 1,500 to 2,000 ions per cubic centimeter in the space that you are concerned about. Forget about how many ionizers were produced at the tip. What you care about is how many ions there are in the treated space. So this device is capable of generating that number of ions for a airflow up to 2,400 CFM. It is UL2998, and it has the ability to be powered through 12 volts, 24 volts AC DC, 120 volts AC, and 230 volts AC. I'm showing you some pictures just to give you an idea how easy this is to install. This is a simple VRF round cassette, right, where we open it up and you can see our ionizer with the needle points in a way that actually the ions are dragged into the airflow, pumped into the space. Here you see the same ionizer mounted on a simple PTAC unit. And again, it mounted perpendicular to the airflow. Very simple, quick installation. The needlepoint ionizer style PA660 is the brother or sister of our 600. Is the same ionizer used for 600 up to 2,400 CFM with an additional pair of dry contacts so that you can connect it to your building automation system just to ensure that the unit is in operation. Otherwise, this light is present in both of them. But if the ionizer is not visible to you, then this dry contact will allow you to know that the unit is working. We have an auto-clean version of the ionization devices. This one we call the auto-clean 1500. It has 3 times the capacity of a PA 600 and 660, capable of treating up to 6,000 CFM, a pair of dry contacts, and of course, it has the ability to work with 12, 24 volts AC or DC. Very, very versatile unit that can be installed in any type of air handler, fan coil, PTAC, VRF, or heat pump. Our 7000 series is a unit that has 4 capacities depending on the model type, from 1400 CFM up to 6000 CFM. So a lot of flexibility, but this one is meant to be mounted either in duct or inside of an air handling unit. There's uses the same technology as the auto-clean, where you have recessed needle points, and it's UL 2998 certified. And then finally, our plasma bars are meant for larger tonnages, for large equipment, such as up to 20,000 CFM, and the ability to be installed inside of air handlers and rooftop units. Something that is very important, and I invite you to consider when you're looking at ionization and presenting this to your clients, is that we are UL 867 and UL 299 certified. UL 2998 certification means that you are emitting less than 5 parts per billion of ozone. In other words, you're emitting 0 ozone. And this is a very important designation when you are installing bipolar ionization. As I mentioned, we have a large, listen, we have thousands of customers all over the world. We are one of the premier, if not the premier, indoor air quality solutions company. So a lot of these logos you recognize. So in closing, think of portable Nanostrike technology as a way of bringing portable technology to your customers so they can reopen their schools, their restaurants, their offices, governments. They can open their municipality buildings, their state buildings, their federal buildings. Banks can open back to the public. The portables will allow you to do that. Ionization in your applied equipment will tackle the VOCs, right? Because we break down VOCs into H2O and CO2 molecules when it comes to ionization. It will deactivate viruses and bacteria from a long-term perspective, and will also eliminate particulate matter in the air. Both of them working together will allow you to create the most safe environment for you and your customers. So I appreciate the opportunity to present this to you. Again, my name is Mark Moreno, and look forward to hearing from you and supporting your projects.